3 different women in one night within about 6 hours. One was a girl who I knew that was moving away, the other 2 were random hookups at clubs. People ask Reddit. What's the sluttiest thing you've ever done? Ducked a girl in the bucket of an excavator at a park close to my house. It was one of the best ducks I've ever had. About a decade ago, had a threesome with a couple, MF, at my place. While they were sleeping, got a text from this random I banged occasionally, went out to hit that at a friend's party, then a couple hours later came back home and got busy again with the couple when they woke up in the morning. I was the 5th member of a play session with 2 couples. Mind-blowing. But I'll probably never reveal that to anyone in my real life. How does a person find themselves in a situation like that? I was the babysitter for one of the couples and I was already the 3rd in their bedroom for a while before that. This event was to share me with some of their friends. Crazy chapter of my life. Went home with an older woman after talking for maybe 10 minutes or so. Ducked that night and again in the morning. Finally exchanged names when she dropped me off at my car in the morning. I was 23, she was 40. Yes, she was attractive. This was a while ago, so I don't remember much of the conversation. We just flirted at the bar while waiting for a drink and she asked if I wanted to go to her place. Went to a stranger's house that I just met at a bar. He told me where to find the keys. Let myself in, got naked, and laid face down on his bed waiting for him to come duck me. Met a girl online, she was a friend for ages in a chat rook and then one day she said she liked me, traveled 8 hours to see her. We had a mad weekend of sex where she also introduced me to the world of ass play and then the chat service shut down and never saw each other again. I wonder if she's still out there. Was feeling pretty playful one night and wanted my beastie to come over, but he had been drinking and couldn't drive. I was also not sober so driving to him was a no-go. He asked if I'd trust him to send me a surprise and I trust him with my life so obviously said yes. About half hour later he calls and we're just chatting. Completely forgot about the surprise by this point. Doorbell rings while we're on the phone so he tells me to strip and then answer it. That was the first time I met his best friend and he completely rocked my ship haha. 10/10 would do again. I did fold all my clothes right after drying them. And did put them away. Obligatory not me, but a friend of mine went on 4 dates with 4 different men over the course of 24 hours and she banged them all. I was a roller coaster of emotions. Didn't even know how to respond. Had sex in the ticket booth of a football stadium. It was cramped but loved the risk of getting caught. Snuck into an empty classroom at my university to role-playing a professor-student fantasy and ducked my girlfriend on the desk. Earlier this year, my married girlfriend told me her husband, who worked in a funeral home, fantasized about a customer seducing him at work. I had never met him so agreed to fulfill his fantasy as a favor to her. I pretended to be a client, met him in his office, seduced him, and ducked him in his office and on the sales floor among the sample caskets. Reply: did he find out his wife had arranged it afterwards? Answer: nope. Secret intact. Smile: he did go home, very satisfied, and told her all about it. They have an open relationship so she was more than happy to hear about what happened. She called me later and thanked me profusely. I've since started playing with both of them every few months. One weekend, a FWB stopped by on a Friday afternoon before going to a party, and we ducked before I got in the shower. At the bar later that night, I hooked up with a MILF FWB and spent a few hours at her house. Saturday night, gave someone a ride to her parents' house and she was locked out. She was going through a divorce, so took her to a motel to drop her off and I was invited to spend the night. The next Friday, the MILF and I walk into the bar together and the bouncer asked if we had fun at the motel on Saturday and winked. It was supposed to be a secret that we were hooking up. The MILF knew she was with me on Friday at her house. Not a motel on Saturday. She tore me up that night thinking she had competition. Though what was the most deliciously dirty was being a duck toy for the COO of the company I used to work for. Get access to a nice hotel suite, got food, then would get my brains ducked out. If you like the video and want to support our new channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you very much. Recent breakup, went to a party, got a BJ from a stranger in the bathroom but couldn't come because drunk people banging on the door, then later on, her friend looked at me and said you. And pulled me by my arm into her friend's room and ducked me. Then I went home and my current wife was passed out in my bed because she thought I wasn't coming home and was partying with my roommate and his girlfriend, then ended up fooling around with and going down on her. Edit, broken up from dating a girl, hooked up with 2 girls at a party, came home to find a friend at the time in my bed, hooked up with her, happily married to her almost 15 years later. Went to a stranger's house and as soon as I walk in I got naked, got on my knees and got my throat ducked. He came, I swallowed, and then I just left. It was amazing. My girlfriend doesn't wear panties when we go out. We end up ducking in the car parking lot before we go in. I've had 2 foursomes within 3 weeks of each other. But really real sex with someone you're passionate about is so much better. When I was in the Air Force, a group of coworkers had circled around me, with me on my knees sucking everyone's D. Their wives/girlfriends were less than 10 feet away. Reply: thank you for your service. Ducked my youth pastor's married 48-year-old sister while her son, who is my age, was in the living room with his friends, who were all completely aware that I was there bottoming out in the lady. Woke up the next morning and watched Shameless with her daughter on the couch while she cooked breakfast. Reply: okay, so how did this whole scenario come about? Answer: matched with her on Tinder and didn't really know who she was until it was too late. On the other hand, she knew who I was the whole time and I guess it just turned her on. She went to school with my mom and her brother was one of my favorite people in the world and that it was a bit naughty. I have the same cross tattoo in the same spot he does and everything and dread the idea of him finding out about it. Went to a homosexual bathhouse in San Francisco on a nice rainy weekend evening, blew 7 guys and got ducked by 5 more. 3 different women in one night within about 6 hours. One was a girl who I knew that was moving away, the other 2 were random hookups at clubs. During the winter I wore nothing but a long coat and lingerie underneath. Went for a walk with my boyfriend. He had no idea. I was nervous but excited the entire time. Then once we were pretty far away I whispered to him and confessed my underwear secret. The walk back he was super hard. Then once back at his apartment I blew him. He thought it was really hot and was very surprised. A friend of mine came home on leave, so I got a hold of my ex-girlfriend and we tag-teamed her at the Soak and Poke hot tub place. We all had a great time, especially her. She wanted to do it again, but my buddy had to go back and play army before we got a chance. I went back to his hotel room with a guy I'd met in a nightclub, didn't know his name. In the morning he woke me to say he had to go off for work but I could check myself out and please return his key as it was his last night there. I went back to sleep and woke up at checkout, took the key down to reception wearing a skirt and see-through top. Tried to sheepishly walk away but reception called me back and said the room wasn't yet paid for. I fumbled over my words that it must be paid for. She asked under what name. I looked at the floor and mumbled I didn't know the name. Or the business. She had to call her manager over and they did eventually establish the room actually was already paid for. 2 attempts at outdoor sex. First one. We got interrupted by a guy walking his dog. Inspired her to try again though. Second time, my then GF set up a lunch out in the woods near a military training area near us. With clear plans for dessert. Now, we were just taking our first few bites of dessert. For people not good at metaphors, most clothes were still on, but a lot of hands were under clothes moving around, and then a mobile infantry company drove by, on their way to a drill. I got a lot of guys giving me a thumbs up that day. Didn't get laid though. Went out on a Friday. Nothing eventful happened, pass out in my bed at 2 a.m. Wake up at 9 to my ex knocking on the door, we talk then duck. She leaves and I go back to sleep. Wake up around noon and go get a Gatorade and energy drink from the gas station and talk to my friend that was working in the back stocking. Things get touchy and she blows me. Head back home and called my roommate to tell him what happened and he invites me to join him at the pool in the apartment complex. A lot of people from the apartments were around drinking margs and grilling. Chat up a girl who I had seen around campus for a few hours. Many drinks later we go back to her place and duck. Helped a girl to bed as she was very drunk. A few hours later she was much better and remembered my kindness, which led to sex. Shortly after I slept with her best friend and the host of the party. Also my best friend's, at the time, girlfriend. Woke up and slept with the first girl again. I wasn't allowed to those house parties again. Sucked a guy's D in an alley next to the bar. There was an audience. Thankfully this was before everyone had smartphones. Also ducked a guy while his GF was upstairs sleeping. Guy happened to be my boss at the time. Best friend's older sister came to visit. He invited me out. We drank. He left to go hook up with a FWB. She, married, asked me not to leave her alone at his apartment. I said sure I guess. Just trying to be nice. She ends up sucking my D. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.